Hello, Oracles. Well, tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow we have Tesla earnings coming out after hours. The numbers should be coming out around 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time, about 5 minutes after the market closes. They will then have the earnings call at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So again, Brian over at My Tesla Weekend will be doing a live stream for when the numbers get released. He said he's going to be doing it around 3:30 to 3:45 Eastern Time, and then I will have a live stream here on this channel around 5 to 5:15 p.m. We'll rehash all the numbers, do a quick discussion. Brian will join us as well, and then we'll listen to the earnings call. So today we're going to go over a little preview as to what the estimates currently are for EPS. We're going to go over what my estimates are for EPS and just some of the other things that we can look forward to when we get to earnings tomorrow and how the market may react. So just a reminder that the market's going to react however it wants to react, totally unpredictable. None of this is financial advice, but earnings movements are usually a gamble, which is why I never play them. So for me, I'm just going to be a buy and hold, and I'm going to enjoy this ride. So we'll get into all of that in just a minute. All right, so looking at the charts today, and again, we're just trading sideways. Again, I think we were just waiting for tomorrow's earnings numbers. So we didn't really move much today. We were down 1.5% after hours, a little bit of a movement. But again, we haven't been moving very much lately. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be the big moment where we either move big one way or the other. So again, we're not sure which way that's going to go. We'll see in about 24 hours. All right, so looking at the earnings estimates for tomorrow, Ross Gerber coming out saying, tomorrow we find out how much Tesla was able to cut costs. Lots of negative baked in. Estimates are for EPS to decline year over year with a large increase in units sold. Will be lots to unpack in this report. So estimates for EPS right now are at 86 cents. My estimates are 97 cents. So we'll see how this comes in. And as Ross had pointed out here, Tesla has come down on prices, obviously, on their vehicles very significantly in Q1. But have the costs of all of the materials come down as well? Has the cost of manufacturing dropped enough to offset all those price cuts? We also have the economies of scale coming into play when it comes to Austin and Berlin, as they're now pushing 4 to 5,000 units per week out of each of those factories. And a lot of the ramp costs now already done and paid for in the last year, we may be looking at lower costs. But of course, the question comes in, how much were they able to lower these costs to offset the price drops that they took on all the vehicles? Again, this goes back to, where do we think margins are going to fall? Some people think that we're going to be in possibly single digit vehicle margins. Some people think we're going to be in the high teens. Personally, I have them coming in at 22% vehicle margins for this quarter. I think that is going to go up as the year goes on, as costs come down, but it may balance. It really depends on, the whole balance that they're coming with. I don't know how Tesla is playing it. I think tomorrow is going to give us an indication as to how they plan on playing out the entire year. Elon has alluded already to saying, what if we dropped our margins down to 0%? What would happen at that point? Well, so that tells us he's not afraid to do it. That tells us he's actually thought about the possibility of doing that. Well, where are we now with these margins? Again, as Ross said, a lot to unpack. We will find out this information tomorrow. And now, of course, we already know that they sold around 422,000 vehicles. That number doesn't really change much from the estimate that we got at the end of the quarter, so that should stay about the same. For me, I have the average selling price of vehicles at $48,000. I originally had it at 46,000. That may be closer because they did end up coming down on the prices of their Model X and the Model S, especially the S, the drop at the end. They took those last minute hits over in Europe as well. So for me, it may be that $46,000 range. That's a massive drop from where we were a year ago, but they have obviously sold significantly more units. So they have more units sold, but average selling price is down. Again, this is really going to come down to, what is the cost of producing a vehicle now? Previously, it was in the upper $30,000 range, $38,000 to $39,000. That was the average cost to produce the vehicle. So if we're looking at $46,000 for an average selling price, that's not much of a margin that they have on top of that. For instance, if they were selling the vehicles for $46,000 on average, and the average cost to produce was $38,000, that's just over a 17% vehicle margin. That is significantly below where I have them at 22%. So it's really going to come down to what was the mix that they had sold out there, what were the different options that people got in, and how much of FSD deferred revenue are they going to recognize in this quarter as well. That could bump the margins up significantly, especially depending on how they report that number. So we'll go back to what we talked about for Q4. And the most important thing, bottom line, is what are operating margins? Because vehicle margins may come down, but if operating margins are still strong, that shows the strength in all of their operations when it comes to cutting costs everywhere else across the board. So even if the vehicle margins aren't great, if they've been doing a great job cutting costs elsewhere, that means that they still have that big money coming in at the bottom, and that's still going to be adding into the EPS at the bottom line. So vehicle margins are important, but operating margins are even more important because that is what you're paying the bills with, is that operating profit at the very bottom line. And now, if you guys are over on Twitter, I know Karav is working together a whole entire EPS estimate of all the big names that are out there right now. So he's going to be having this out over on Twitter if you guys follow him there, just to kind of see where everybody is falling with their EPS estimates. Again, these are just guesses. But the reason I like to do that is because when we always talk about doing your due diligence and research on the companies that you're investing in, that truly is it. Really dive in, see what it is. And everybody does it in different ways. Some people will literally drive to the factory to make sure that the factory does exist and it's actually producing vehicles. Some people like to go and do it in different ways. Like they go out there and count how many vehicles are out there on the road. Are there more vehicles out on the road today than there were last year? Little things like that, just doing different pieces of research on your own. Some people dive into the numbers themselves. So that's one of the things that I do, and Karav does it significantly better than I do. And there are some people out there like James Stevenson, Brian over at My Tesla Weekend, Troy Teslake. These guys all do an amazing job going into these numbers, doing the due diligence and research. So if it's something that you guys aren't strong with, these are guys that you can follow. And I highly recommend following many of them out there because it gives you a broad scope of what the ranges are that we can possibly fall in. So, this is why it's awesome to see a list like this that Karav is putting together for us to be able to see, hey, here is the general list. This is how Tesla is progressing. This is the numbers that we could potentially see. Now you've done your due diligence and research because you have gone through some people who have proven themselves to be very good with these numbers. And one thing I am not certain of, nobody is going to be how the market is going to react to earnings tomorrow. There may be something in there, and we've joked about it before, that Tesla may hit all the numbers that we want to hit. Maybe they hit 24% vehicle margins. Maybe they come in with 16% operating margins. Maybe they come in and say average selling price was $50,000. Maybe they come in and they smash EPS and they come in with like $1.10. They could get all of these things, and then they could also give guidance that's even stronger than expected. But somebody farted in the room on the earnings call, and all of a sudden the stock is going to sell off. The craziest things happen. So hard to predict what's going to happen. But one of the things that I can strongly predict is as long as Tesla continues to grow with the fundamentals the way they do, when we look at this stock 5 and 10 years down the road, it is going to be valued significantly higher than it is today. And with that said, we've got John Ehrlichman over on Twitter tweeting out, in 1903, Henry Ford's lawyer was advised not to buy stock in Ford. Quote, the horse is here to stay, he was told by a local bank president. He bought $5,000 worth of stock and sold it in 1919 for $12.5 million. $5,000 to $12.5 million in 16 years. Now, if you see this statement and you don't recognize the same type of significance that we're going through right now in the transition from ICE vehicles over to EVs, I encourage you to do a little bit more research. Now, this movement happened very quickly from horse and buggy over to ICE vehicles. And the reason it happened was because they came up with this manufacturing process they were able to produce at scale. Well, here we are right now, Tesla producing at scale. The entire world is moving over in this direction. So it's not like it's just a Tesla only thing. We have governments out here that are setting regulations down to convert and transition the entire world over to renewable, sustainable energy. And EVs are going to be a massive piece of that. So I can say right now that potentially within 16 years, probably even less than 16 years, we're most likely going to see that same growth. Now, we can't guarantee that you're going to have a $5,000 investment in Tesla being worth $12.5 million dollars in 16 years, but some people who have been in Tesla stock for a long time have seen some massive gains. Some people have retired on it already. So we're at a point right now where we may see a significant growth over the next 10 to 15 years still. Big difference in Ford and Tesla are Tesla's got a lot more going for them than Ford did. Ford was just getting into the car game. We have got Tesla in the EVs. We've got Tesla going into energy. We've got Tesla going into AI. We've got Tesla going into robotics and having Optimus coming out in the future as well. So the potential is there for things to happen like this. Nothing is ever guaranteed, but seeing the similarities between what happened with Ford back in the early 1900s and what Tesla is doing right now is hard to ignore. And you guys can let me know in the comments below how you feel about this, because I know many of you feel the same way, that this potential is strong, and I really do feel that we're going to get there. I've got a price target of $3,000 for 10 years out from now, and I think that's a very strong possibility that we get there. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be looking back 10 years from now saying, I wish I had bought more. Again, that's not financial advice, but I'm buying every day. And again, as I said, all the super chats and super thanks that you guys give me, all of that money is going into Tesla stock as well. So you guys are helping me invest, and I'm going to reinvest that back into you guys in the future also. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what all of your estimates are for earnings tomorrow. How do you think the stock is going to react? Just pretty much a coin flip, but you guys can let us know how you think it's going to react, whether they're going to be positive or negative, and if you think we're going to finish the week higher or lower than we are right now. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great one.